Hey guys, so one of the favorite things that I get to do as a career coach is call people on their BS, and it's one of my favorite things. I think it's like a great gift of mine. So, this past week, I've had a couple of clients who've come to me and said, "Okay, I'm thinking of applying to this position," and they'll forward me the link to it. And I take a look and I just start laughing because it is pretty much a description of exactly what they've said they don't want to do. Either that, or we'll be looking at a position together and everybody knows. They'll say, like, this is kind of my least favorite job. Like, I don't even really want this job, but I'm going to go ahead and apply. Okay. So I think that kind of stuff has value because I think, yes, you should be practicing applying. You should be practicing going on interviews. Like, the more power to you. But I think there's something deeper that's happening, which is, as really intelligent, smart people, we're taught to be proactive and reactive and come up with a plan for every scenario. And we're constantly planning ahead, right? So we're thinking about this sort of idea of, well, it'll look good on my resume. Like, I'm going to do this because it looks good on my resume. And I really have to caution against that because I think that doing things for the sake of looking good on one's resume, when you zoom out, that is coming from a place of anticipating the need of a future self that may or may not ever exist, right? So if you say, well, I don't really want to do consulting, but I'm going to do it now because my future self is going to want this thing, right? Or even your past self. You can say, well, I'm not really into operations management. It's something I used to do, but, before I had kids, like, I really loved it. And so maybe I should just try that, okay? And so anytime that you're veering over to the left or over to the right of center, and trying to bring back to life a past self or keep your options open for a future self, a little red flag always goes off in my mind because I like to think, well, what about the present self? What does the person currently sitting in front of me really want? Meaning, everything is changing all the time, okay? Before you had kids, life was easier. Now you have kids, or maybe you moved to a new city, or maybe you just got married, or, you're always in the process of some kind of change. And so my question for you is, what is the challenge that you're dealing with right now? And how does your work need to accommodate that, right? So it's great if you used to be an investment banker and happily worked 80 hours a week, but now you have 3 kids, so maybe that's not really an option anymore. And is no longer aligned with what the life that you currently live. And so I would say, forget past self, forget future self for a minute, okay? We're always planning ahead, but for a minute, just forget this fictional future self, and think about, what does the current self want? What kind of work, what kind of challenge are you looking to do right now? What kind of salary are you looking for right now? What kind of title are you looking for right now? And if it doesn't check those boxes, if it doesn't satisfy those requirements, I say move on. I'll give you an example. When I was pregnant with Jade, I did some work with a nonprofit organization that was a volunteer organization for senior leaders in private equity, okay? And part of my rationale for doing this work, other than the women were genuinely really nice and I believed in the mission, was that I thought somewhere, I was like, well, one day, if I want to work in private equity, like, this is going to be really good for my resume. Okay. Take a fucking step back for a second. What? And I did it, and I had a great time, and it was something I did when I was pregnant, and I helped them out with their digital marketing, and it was like a nice gig, okay? But I'm going to call myself out on the fact that, what planet was I living on that I was going to take this job for the express purpose of maybe one day, if Mandy Tang wanted to work in private equity, that this would be very helpful for my network, okay? And it comes from ultimately a place of fear, a place of Well, I don't want to shut any door. I don't want to leave any rock unturned. I don't want to have fewer options. I want to be able to work in publishing, editorial, HR, and private equity. I was never going to work in private equity. Let's be honest. And I probably never wanted to. It just wasn't like my thing. I mean, I wasn't going to become, a manager of an LP fund. Like, this is just not, I don't even know if those terms are correct. Like, I just made that up. Like, I don't know anything about it. And so this idea that I would dive into this position with the hope that maybe one day it would come to fruition. Meanwhile, I wasn't thinking about the present. I wasn't really thinking about what does Mandy want today? And so that's what I am going to push you to do, is to think about when you're considering positions. If there's any kind of qualifier well, it'll be really good for the future, or, well, I don't really want to do this, or my favorite is, I hate this job. I don't even want this job, but I'm going to apply anyway, right? Just stop. Because we all have limited amount of resources. There are only so many hours in the day, and there's only so much that you really should commit to. Okay? It's like you can't overextend yourself, or else you will get job burnout. You will get job application burnout if you apply to too many things. So I think it's about going inward and really thinking about, what are my gifts? What are the skills that I want to use? What are the challenges that I want to help solve today? Not some fictional future private equity self, which may or may not ever exist. Trust me, I would be terrible at private equity. Okay? What about today? So that's my challenge for you. That's my question for you, is what about today? I'll leave you with that, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.